In the beginning, there was no sound, only the void. And God said, "Let there be sound."
Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you.
And the voice of man rang out, and voiceover was born. And God said, "It is good." Talkin' Voiceovers with Rick Sellers and Wes McCraw. The big podcast where we talk all things voiceover. And now, Rick Sellers and Wes McCraw.
Meanwhile, our heroes, Bullwinkle J. Moose and Rocket J. Squirrel, along with Rick and Wes, prepare to interview actor, voice actor, and impressionist extraordinaire, Piotr Michael.
Piotr Michael, oh boy!
Mr. Know-It-All. Stay with us now for Adventures with Piotr or Annie Get Your Gun.
That makes no sense!
I'll say.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode number 6 of Talkin' Voiceovers. Today on the pod, Wes and I welcome Piotr Michael, actor, voice artist, comedian, and impressionist extraordinaire. You've heard him on The Howard Stern Show on Sirius XM and television shows like Marvel's What If, Impress Me, the Netflix series Lady Dynamite, X-Files, Disney's Wander Over Yonder, Jimmy Kimmel Live, Ellen, and Conan. He's voiced characters in video games for Doom, Call of Duty, Warcraft, Final Fantasy, and LEGO Dimensions. His impressions include Jeff Goldblum, Steve Buscemi, Donald Trump, Bernie Sanders, Seth Rogen, and so many, many, many more. Piotr, welcome to the show.
Now, how are you guys doing?
Oh, good.
Excellent. How are you?
Good. Am I coming in clear?
You are. You sound fantastic.
Fantastical.
Hey, the pronunciation of your name is Piotr, correct?
Piotr is the Polish pronunciation, the proper way to say it. Piotr, there's a slight trill on the R, but you can say it fast, and you can skip the R. It's fine. It's such a complicated name. My dad can't even pronounce it. Piotr.
Piotr.
Piotr. Piotr.
And are you, in fact, Polish? Is that where that comes from?
Yeah, we did a, what is it called? The DNA test?
Yeah, the Ancestry.com.
To see who in our lineage we're from, and I'm 98% Polish.
Wow.
So,
Very cool.
Most people aren't
very boring.
Well, most people aren't 98% anything. People think they are, and then you get it checked, and you find out you're like a mutt.
I mean, the funny thing is Poland's border has changed every couple hundred years. You know, at one point they completely disappeared because of Germanic wars. But so I'm probably German and Austrian and who knows what else.
Yeah,
but, yeah. I'm very dark-haired, and so in the southern part of Poland they're closer to Turkey. So we think some Turks came over and had a couple bonfires with. Some of the
relatives.
Ladies
over there.
Yeah, so who knows?
Well, that stuff happens.
Turkey.
I mean, look at the Moors. They went over to Italy and took care of business.
The people just want more of the Moors. That's all it is.
All right, my friend. Are you ready to begin?
Yes, and quick question.
Yes.
How long is the podcast?
It's like 25 minutes, 30 minutes.
Oh, okay.
We'll get as much as we can out of you before it goes too crazy. And because I know you have a busy schedule, so we don't want to keep you too long.
I appreciate it. No, I should have time for you guys. We should be good.
Well,
excellent.
We do appreciate it. I know you're a busy guy, and you're
all that good stuff.
Yeah, you're a big deal. So, we're just a couple of guys out here in middle America,
Hey, I'm middle of Pasadena.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, Piotr Michael, welcome to Talkin' Voiceovers.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Rick.
Oh, you're awesome. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Rick Sellers. I'm the voice talent.
And I'm Wes McCraw. I'm an audio producer and engineer. And it's great for you to take the time out to speak with us.
To rap.
Yeah, just to shoot the breeze and see what you're up to and talk about your career a little bit and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
You grew up in Cleveland, is that correct?
Partly in Cleveland. I was born in Southern California, And then I relocated, and I would say the longest childhood was spent in Cleveland, Ohio, for maybe about 8 years of my life. And then I moved to New Mexico and then to Hawaii.
Wow.
So I had a very diverse childhood, different terrains and different cultures all across the United States, which was great.
What did your dad do?
My dad was studying as a student of life, as they say. So he did a little bit of everything, but he he had a focus on theater and art, and he was I think at the time when I was a kid he was a school teacher. So he would teach art, and then he'd also teach performing arts.
Interesting.
As well.
Well, the acorn didn't fall far from the tree then.
No, and it's so funny because you know, sometimes you just want to rebel and do the opposite of what your parents do. And
Right.
you
But
find
not
out
in
you're
your
more
case.
like them. Yeah.
Well, Cleveland seems to be a spawning ground for talent, and then they move elsewhere and do great things. So
Right. We take a sip of the water, realize it's slightly polluted, and then we leave.
and
Yeah.
move on. Maybe radioactive as well.
Exactly.
The very first time I encountered you was on television, was in Mad TV. And
Mad
I was
TV,
blown.
yes.
Yeah, I remember Mad TV, and I was blown away by your impressions. And I got to ask, what was that experience like?
Well, it was fantastic because, as a kid, you grew up knowing Saturday Night Live. And around the same time that Saturday Night Live was doing reruns, Comedy Central would do reruns of Mad TV. And you'd see this completely different type of humor. And you realize that, it was a little less corporate, a lot raunchier and more offbeat. And I loved Mad Magazine as a kid growing up, so it was something that came to me as a great surprise to have an audition available for me. And I said, I'm never going to get this, because when those opportunities come around, that's usually what you say. And that's the healthiest way, I think, is to say, I'm never going to get this, but I'm going to do the best I can, hoping that I would.
Yeah.
And then I did. So I was the impressions guy on the show. So I got to go under a lot of prosthetics and spend a lot of time with the makeup department, but hide behind a lot of characters and just play in that world was fantastic, because we had a live audience, and this was, of course, well before the pandemic, and it was an ensemble group, so you had scores of talented people all together behind the scenes and on camera, and performing with them every day was difficult because you'd just be laughing your butt off. So I don't know how they do it on Saturday Night Live, because you're performing on there and someone will say something, even though it's predetermined on a script, and you'll laugh your butt off. But on live TV, that's got to be so incredibly difficult and challenging.
Terrifying as well.
Yeah.
Biting your tongue.
Yeah.
No, a great, fabulous experience. And I have to say that the highlights was working with some of the original cast members, because the Mad TV I was on was a reboot
Right.
of the original. And so we had Mo Collins.
I love her. Super talented.
Yeah. And we had, Deborah Wilson and, Will Sasso and Bobby.
Sasso's great too. Terrific impressionist as well.
Such fun. Well, yeah, and the key with Will Sasso is he commits. Was a great lesson I learned from him, is he commits 150%, like beyond. Like, you say, okay, I'm doing the job, I'm doing what needs to be done, but he goes beyond it and surprises people, which is a really great asset to have as a performer, because if you can surprise people after you've got the job, then people will just want you to come back. Sure.
Right. I remember him doing a James Gandolfini impression of Tony Soprano on the original, and it was drop dead. I mean, spectacular, just beautiful.
That was the sketch where they kept cutting out, and
they would cut out all the nasty dialogue from the Sopranos.
And so it was just a scene of him doing nothing, right? Yeah, that was great.
It was very funny. Was that your first time on camera acting as in a?
No, that was first time on a I guess network sketch show. I would do little films here and there. I did a show called Impress Me.
Oh, yeah.
With
Jim
Ross
Eskelman.
Marquand and Jim Eskelman, and directed by Ben Shelton, creator and director Ben Shelton.
Take the teeth of Austin Powers, put it there, and make it a little bit higher, and you got Steve Buscemi right there.
Yeah, we did that as a web series that got picked up and went on TV, and then now is still up for viewing on Amazon Prime. You can see Impress Me. We had 2 lovely seasons on there, and it was I did little projects here and there, but I would say that was probably the first bigger shows on camera.
We had Jim Eskelman on as a guest, and terrific guy, super humble, very talented. He does a spectacular Ron Howard impression. I don't know if you've ever heard it, but
yes,
it's unbelievably uncanny. Anyway, well, that's terrific. I wasn't sure if that was the very first time you were on a network show or not, but that's the first time I became aware of you.
Yeah. I think that probably had the most eyes and at least, my name and recognition, because constantly going up, we'd introduce the shows as ourselves in addition to being the characters. So
very cool.
It was a great way for people to get to know me as a human being and not a puppet.
Yeah. So I'm a huge Howard Stern fan, and I listen all the time for years. Gosh, 20 years probably. And I know you're doing some voices on there, if I'm not mistaken. Who are some of the characters that you're doing on the show? Because I hear the voices, the impersonations all the time, but I don't always know who's doing them.
That I don't know if I can say.
Oh.
I don't know if I don't know if I'm allowed to say who I do or what I do. It's kind of up to the fans to figure out. I know that some people have kind of figured out who I do, but I do. I've done.
You've done voices on the show.
I do show. Yeah, I do it all the time. I just worked the past 3 days every morning. I wake up here 3 a.m. until about 8, sometimes 8:30, doing characters and that sort of thing. But
Baba Booey.
It's it's a fabulous show because it's the it's the ultimate freedom. You don't have to hold anything back.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do want to hold things back because it's just not appropriate in this day and age. But it's a great freeing platform to go on and just say a funny thing in the point of view of a character and get that across. And the greatest thing is the team behind it are so sweet.
Yeah.
Everybody does play a little version of a character when they're on air. And behind the scenes, they're really great guys.
Awesome.
Can you talk any about how that came to be? I mean, did you audition for it?
Sure, yeah. I had a lot of videos on YouTube, and one of the writers saw me on there and said, hey, could you send us a couple of demos? And so I think I sent, I don't know. Who did I send? I just sent a slew of characters, and that was 2014.
Wow.
And I think, has it been 6 years now? 7 years. Yeah. I would just send in little characters here and there, and over time, over the years, I would do more and more, and became more of a regular occurrence on that show.
Were you a fan before any of this? I mean, had you been listening already?
I was definitely a fan of Howard, but not the terrestrial radio fan. I wasn't. That was just before my generation, so I didn't grow up in the car and my dad like, hey, let's listen to Howard.
Right.
I grew up listening to NPR, but no, I knew of Howard and would watch the greatest clips. And Billy West was I love Billy West for me.
Yeah.
So I would look up Billy West clips, and that's how I think that's probably how I got introduced to Howard, was looking for Billy West and finding all the work that he does on there.
That's probably one of the earliest memories I have of Stern. Is I've been listening that long. I remember when Billy West was on, and he would
do the Jackie puppet.
Yeah, and he at the time there was a controversy.
Yeah, so great.
At the time, there was some controversy with the, I think it was Marge Schott was the manager, I think, of the Cincinnati Reds.
Oh, that's right.
And he was doing an impression of Marge Schott, and it was very
racist and over the top.
Yeah. But, man, what a talent that guy is.
Super.
Billy West.
I know Rachel Butera was doing some voices on the Stern Show as well. And I know you guys were cast members on The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle from 2018.
Yes, we were both on there. She played, of course, Natasha. And I auditioned for Boris. And then I said, well, I'll audition for this guy, Fearless Leader, too, but he's barely in any of the shows, you know. And it turned out that the reboot, they really wanted him to be the main villain, where he was the driving force behind it, Boris and Natasha. And so I was privileged to be the voice of the Fearless Leader. And in the original cartoons, he's very subtle and like this. He's almost, you know, it's kind of like tight-lipped and buttoned up. And he's like, go and make sure that Rocky and Bullwinkle gets, go and blow up their rocket ship and get rid of them. Darling. Oh, wait, I'm doing Natasha's line with Boris.
That's okay.
And when we did the reboot, we did several episodes with the original characters and kind of like the drier performances in mind, and it just wasn't flowing. The energy wasn't there, and so we amped it up and matched closer to kind of like SpongeBob level. And so Fearless Leader he had a range. Rachel would always cover her ears because we'd be in a session and I would be screaming at the top of my lungs as Fearless Leader. I don't know if I want to do it now. Maybe I'll turn down my gain, but, the Fearless Leader would always talk at this, level when he was pontificating and figuring out what was going on, and when he would get really furious, he'd scream at the top of his lungs. Ah! Sort of like a Gene Wilder villain.
Yeah.
Once I have your recipe, world domination will finally be mine. Push in an echo effect.
It was great fun because what I found unintentionally from doing that character day in and day out was I became incredibly relaxed, and it was because I was letting out all of this subconscious anger. Just using acting as a release,
like a primal.
Screaming at the top of my lungs. And now, after the show's been, we've stopped recording, I'm an angry person once more.
You don't seem angry at all. You seem very mellow.
Who isn't a little bit angry these days just by default? That's my baseline is basically a little bit angry all the time.
Well, you've got to be a little angry. That means you're alert and you're passionate about something.
I think so.
But,
Yeah, I think if you're paying attention, you're going to be a little bit angry,
Well,
Absolutely.
Speaking of Rocky and Bullwinkle, I'm a huge fan of the original 59 series. Stellar voice cast, June Foray, Bill Scott, Paul Frees, William Conrad. When you auditioned for Boris, were you trying to do a Paul Frees version of that character?
Yes, because that was the original, I think, audition. Usually when they're doing a reboot is please match the character.
As much as possible,
As much as possible. And then usually they say, but also give us your own spin, so you can give 2 takes. But nowadays, because there's so many iterations of characters, for example, like the Joker on Batman, you'll get an audition and it'll say, looking for a new take on the Joker.
Wow.
You're like, well,
not the Mark Hamill.
What am I going to do that's different but also great? Mm-hmm. And so for Rocky and Bullwinkle, I'm pretty sure what we did was audition initially as close to the original characters as possible. And then we tweaked it as we worked with the writers and producers to make it a little bit more of a newer generation.
Very cool. I got to ask, how did you get your start in voiceover? I think we kind of skipped over that part.
I originally wanted to be an animator, and so I studied art and animation. My dad had studied film at UCLA, and he received a master's in film, and he also studied animation there, so he had a lot of leftover animation books and Disney, and so I was brought up reading these books and seeing all the leftover animation cells and just fascinated by cartoons and Mad Magazine and caricatures, and so I loved the grotesque, but I also loved the classic stuff from Disney. And also Disney had such rich voice casting that they would do.
Beautiful.
because they went out and found character actors either from vaudeville or, from film that would just have walk-on parts. And they were so vivid and they had such life behind them that Disney brought them, really rich characters. And so watching them as a kid, you mimic Paul or Pat Buttram when you see him playing in any one of those movies. I learned before Green Acres, I saw him as a dog.
Yeah, right.
So I found myself mimicking Disney movies for sure, and Charlie Chaplin, just his physicality. And as the years went on, I dabbled in theater and that sort of thing, but I felt that I wanted to do animation. I felt a really strong connection to animation. And what I realized was I love animation, but I don't have the capacity to sit down and just, I don't have that dedication.
It's a lot of work, a lot of hours.
A different type of skill set for my brain. But I was still in love with animation. And what I found was I could be instantly animated as a voice performer.
Agreed.
And so I was obsessed with Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, and a lot of impressionists on Saturday Night Live. I love, Phil Hartman, Dana Carvey. Those guys are
all
fabulous.
Great talents.
And as YouTube came around in 2005 or 6, I noticed that there were some kids who were sharing impressions online. And I did impressions just on my own at home or in school, and I thought everybody can do impressions because it just came natural to me. I said, oh, yeah, it's just a thing everybody does. I didn't think anything of it. And when I saw these videos online, there were these kids doing like 100 impressions in 60 seconds, but they were doing sound effects. So it'd be like, Homer Simpson, or they'd just literally just say the guy's name or go, Joe, yeah, zoinks, and I go, these aren't impressions. These are sound effects that anybody can do. And so I said, I'm going to create a set of videos where I will showcase the impressions I can do, but for 30 seconds. And let's see what happens. And YouTube was nothing then. There was, I don't think it was even a thing because Google hadn't bought it by then. And I released some videos. Didn't get much attention, and then I think several months in, YouTube featured it on their front page, and it exploded. And so I started sharing more and more and just got into it, and I said, wow, this can really be a thing. And from there, it led to a lot of opportunities and playing around, and I became a student DJ at the University of Hawaii, so I got to play with a microphone and come up real close and pretend to be somebody else.
Hey, everybody on the Big 12.
Hey, everybody, you're listening to the Hawaii local Hilo radio station. We've got, we had an internet tracker and would say how many people were tuned in. Oh, looks like we've got 6 people. 6 people. Aloha. 6 people are listening to me right now.
So did you have
fantastic?
Did you have a goofy DJ name or anything like that? I mean, like Shadow Stevens or something.
The Mixed Nut was, I think, the name of the show was The Mixed Nut Show. So I was The Mixed Nut, and I was like, that's a funny name because I'm doing voices, so I'm crazy and. It's a mixed bag of different characters, so Mixed Nut, that's funny. And so I was, and it kind of rhymed with my name, so it's Piotr the Mixed Nut,
nice.
I think was the initial reason for that. But yeah, so from there, it just became years of obsessive playing around and just doing it purely out of passion. And one thing led to another, and eventually Saturday Night Live knocked on my digital door and said, send us a tape. Sent them a tape. They flew me out. I didn't get the show, but the producers passed my tape around, or people stole it. I don't know what happened. And so people started finding out about me in Hollywood and said, hey, you got to move here.
Wow,
pretty cool.
What are you doing in Hawaii in your underwear?
That's a big move. Hawaii to anywhere is a big move,
Yeah, and so I said, well, I'll take a year off. So I went to study in England for a year, and studied some theater and acting and comedy over there before coming back and focusing on my career in L.A.
Interesting that you started off as an artist. I know Jim Meskimen he was an artist as well and did design work on Thundercats way back in 85 for Rankin Bass. And I was an artist too, a commercial artist for about 10 years before I switched over to VO. So it's kind of neat that we all share that little element in our past.
I think it just shows the creative brain is something that's very flexible, and I can easily go back, and I use my skills all the time. I design posters, and I love when I get an opportunity to update my website. Someone will say, "Well, I can do that for $25,000," and I say, "Well, I can do that for free,
exactly right,
an hour." So I'm going to do it, and that's empowering. So I think it's a fun skill to have, and you got to keep it up.
Yeah.
Well, you obviously do a ton of impressions. I don't know if you have a number, but I was curious. This is probably a trite question, but do you have one that's sort of your go-to thing, or one that you fit into like an old pair of shoes, one of your favorites?
I would say that changes just because of, something, whatever's in the news or whatever is just on my mind, or I'll just get bored of it.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, when I was 13, I was obsessed with Christopher Lloyd from Back to the Future and Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars. So it was, "Great Scott, Marty, we gotta find a way to get back to the future. We gotta go build a time machine out of coconut Scott." And, I would walk out of the theater every time watching the prequels. They'd come out with a new one, and I would embody Ian McDiarmid as Emperor Palpatine, and I would come out with this voice, and it sounded so bizarre out of a 12-year-old child.
Very, very nice.
And the more I did that voice, the more my natural laugh turned into Emperor Palpatine, so that's when I knew I had to stop.
The dark side. Oh, no.
The dark side
You're getting
of the
sucked in.
Force is powerful. But now I would say my go-to would have to be Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum. We love Jeff Goldblum, yes. He's in and out of the news from time to time, but when he does pop up, we love to hear him. He's got these apartments.com. Yes, we don't want a full endorsement.
Yeah, he's got such unique phrasing.
The cadence is just
like Christopher Walken. There's like this weird.
They're very similar, and then they're weird kind of deliveries. I'm sure you know some of the great impressionists from back in the day. Guys like Rich Little, Frank Gorshin, Fred Trevelina, Marilyn Michaels, David Fry. Do you have a favorite old school impressionist?
Frank Gorshin for me was
bud.
Revelation. When I discovered that he wasn't just the Riddler on Batman, it blew my mind, because there's not much footage now. And, with my age, I'm only 33. So finding it in my 20s, I'm like, how come more people don't know about this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Frank Gorshin's amazing. And that's also such a sad thing when you realize that it's just how life goes. People are famous, people are well known, and then they just disappear.
Yeah.
And Frank Gorshin is an incredible talent, not just vocally, but physically.
Yeah.
And
very physical presence.
The older impressionists, old school guys, they really had to embody the characters when they got up there.
Yep.
Even before it was stand-up. I think a lot of the impressionists really were, almost closer to magic acts, because they come up there and they would
transform
their face,
Yeah.
For example, like if you do Robert De Niro, I can't sound like Robert De Niro unless I physically pull my face and I have to smash my nose and I got to raise my eyebrows, because that's the only way I can sound like Robert De Niro. If I try it like this, it's a little bit different. You see, if it's just my normal face, something's different, right?
So it does help.
It's almost, but if you pull it back, it's a little bit easier to get the characters. It's a little easier to do that. And watching Frank Gorshin do, the famous characters from his era is
Burt
amazing.
Lancaster, Kirk Douglas. I mean,
Kirk Douglas.
I saw him, Frank Gorshin did on the Copycats TV show. You can find it on YouTube. I saw him do an impression of Lee J. Cobb. It was him and Rich Little. Rich Little was doing Gary Cooper, and he was doing Lee J. Cobb. If you look at 12 Angry Men, you'll see him. But his impression was so spot on, I was completely blown away. And I'd never seen him do it before. I'm like, holy cow, that guy's amazing.
Well, other impressionists that I love, of course, were Jim Carrey, and Robin Williams was a great example of someone who can do almost kind of like feather impressions or micro impressions, where he would get an ounce of the character and he would elaborate on them, and he'd exaggerate almost to the point where it didn't even sound like the guy or the characters were there, but he was so funny as them. And it showed to me that you don't have to be exact all the time. You just have to be funny, if that's what you're going for. But with voiceover, specifically you got to voice match and that sort of thing. But another impressionist, Kevin Pollak. Yeah. He's fantastic.
Terrific.
He was the one who popularized William Shatner because he found the hook that everybody was looking for. And I got to meet him and work with him, which was a fantastic honor.
That would be a treat.
Yeah. He's a really sweet guy.
And the Shat just went up into space and came back at 91.
That's right. I
Unbelievable.
went up to space. 90 years old in outer space. And suddenly I come back down to Earth and see.
He was a rocket
It's
man.
meaningless. It's meaningless. All of it. Up in space, it's just blackness, dark.
Death.
But on Earth, there's so much to save, so much to clean up. We've got to clean up the oceans.
I was pretty touched. We're both pretty.
I'm a huge Trek
fans, and so we were tearing up a little bit.
Well, you must love Leonard Nimoy.
I do, absolutely.
I, of course, love Spock, and I've become a Trekkie as well. And watching Spock and his logical thinking on that show really puts things into perspective, that those thoughts existed way back in the 60s and before then, and still were screwed up.
Yeah. Well,
things aren't getting any better, unfortunately.
You talked a little bit about voice matching, and that's my next question. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about voice matching. Who are some of the actors that you've had to voice match for film or television?
Well, for example, I did do Robert De Niro, as I just showed you. I did I did a film for him. I think I did the airplane version, which is where they take out all the expletives and bad words in a film, and you go in and you do the airplane or TV version so that they can play it without having to add the bleeps in on TV. And so you match the performance and match the voices. And I remember casting after I had the gig for Robert De Niro. They said, "Do you know how you got this gig?" And I said, "No, how'd that happen?" They said, "De Niro approved your voice because you matched his breathing style."
Wow.
No kidding. Wow.
And I'm like, crazy. That's a compliment.
That's a huge compliment.
Because he kind of had like a little, I don't know if he got punched in the nose, his sinus is there's something going on there. Maybe he's got a little Fruit Loop stuck in there. I don't know. He would breathe in there and he would talk a little, "Hey, what are you talking about?" And so for me, that was a great compliment, because I'm like, it's really important, not just to get the voice down. The voice, people think it's just in the throat. No, it's everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance.
It's the face. It's the face, the physicality. You'll sound completely different if you stand up or if you sit down. I sometimes don't shame other actors. It's up to them. I don't know what people are personally preferring, but when I see other actors sitting down for the entire session doing multiple characters, not just one, or it's like, okay, you can sit down as the old man, but the whole session is multiple characters sitting down, I go, how do you?
I always stand.
For me, I would want to get up, but if they get the performance across, they don't care. The producers don't mind. So, but for me, I always go like, you have to physically embody that. But another voice, I'm trying to think, Ian McKellen. I did say Ian McKellen for one of his films, and let's see who else. I did Javier Bardem, who's a very almost inaudible person, and you can barely hear and understand what he's saying.
He's terrifying in No Country for Old Men. He's such a scary villain.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like the Sylvester Stallone technique with Rambo. If you remember, or if you know, movie trivia, Rambo, when they made the movie, he speaks throughout the whole movie. He has all this dialogue, and they did a test screening, and they found that he wasn't intimidating, and so they cut all the scenes where he was talking, and he barely speaks through the movie, and suddenly he becomes more intimidating.
Less is more.
Much less is more, because you're like, what's he going to say? I'm going to kick your ass. Oh, my God. Here he comes.
It's over, Johnny.
It's over, Johnny. Gosh, there's so many. I've signed so many NDAs. I don't know. I've done a lot of stuff for Disney.
We don't want you to say anything that was going to get you into trouble.
I've done some things for Disney Parks, so I've matched some existing characters. I've matched some things for Jeff Goldblum. I've done. I did Vin Diesel, which was probably the worst session of my life.
Vin is a tough one to imitate.
Vin one is a really hard one to do. I booked the audition. So what they do is they send you a reference for the character to match. And this is a warning to anybody out there. If you get a voice match audition, be prepared to vocally match them in every range. Because unless they, you never know. It might just be the one line that you're auditioning for, and sometimes they just take your audition and say, hey, here's a check. But for Vin Diesel, for example, they sent one line, and they had one reference. And they said, can you match this? And I did. I was like, Vin Diesel talk like this. It was very low. I'm like, that's pretty accessible. I can do it. I booked the job, and they say, we're going to drive you out, go to Universal Studios, big movie. Whoa, okay, so I go to Universal Studios, I get to the lot, I go there, and they put up Vin Diesel on the big screen, and they're like, all right, you're going to be matching this scene here, and beep, beep, beep. And I hear him talk, and I'm like, that sounds nothing like Vin Diesel.
Oh, man.
And then I'm like, I can't do that. So I turn around to the producers, and they're just picking their nose and eating popcorn. Like, yeah, man, just go for it. Go for it, man. And I'm like, okay. So I do it. And the guy goes, yeah, you don't sound like him. And I'm like,
wow.
And I'm like sweating. And so he goes, we'll go to the next cue. Goes to the next cue. Vin Diesel sounds a complete opposite of what he was just saying in the last scene. He sounds completely different. And I go, what's going on? Now he sounds completely different, and I try and match that. And then I, get closer on some and further away on others. I'm like, we finally, take a break, and I turn to the guys, and I'm like, listen, I'm so sorry. I'm out of my depth here. I thought I could match him. Obviously, I can't. And they said, don't worry, this is for previews. This isn't going to be seen by anyone. This is just for test audiences and producers. And I said, oh, okay, thank God. Whew. And then they're like, nobody can match him. And I'm like, well, there's got to be somebody who can match him. And they said, no. He smokes a carton of cigarettes before every take. Sometimes he doesn't smoke. Sometimes he does. So depending on the level of cigarettes that he has before he shoots, his voice completely changes.
Yeah, it's always changing.
Wow. So he probably goes and loops his own movies after the fact so that it's consistent. But that was one of the worst experiences of my life because I just didn't know. I was like, I don't have the full range of Vin Diesel. I just had that little brief thing. So now when there's an audition for Vin Diesel, I'm much more hesitant, and it's a good warning for people. Just be prepared to do the spectrum of a character.
That's like one of those performance nightmares. I'm a musician primarily, and you have those. You probably have them too, where you have those dreams where you're on stage and nothing's working. You forget something, the mic's not working, nothing's working, and you're just sweating, and it's like one of those nightmarish things. But
especially with home studios is frightening when they when you have a session and you have 30 people on the other line because it's a big corporate commercial or something, and they say, "Okay, ready, let's go," and I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm not recording. Give me a second. Now, because with Zoom and everything, the lesson is just be relaxed, be casual, make jokes. You make a mistake, laugh about it. Tell them, hey, whoops, I screwed up. Let's start again. Because the reality is they've got all the time in the world. And if they want you to do it faster, then they better pay for you to do it faster because you're a human being and so are they. And you just got to relax. And
it happens to everybody.
Just perform.
Are you using Source Connect to connect remotely or?
Yeah, I do Source Connect. And then we'll use Zoom just to connect with a wider scope of people. So the engineer will be on Source, and then usually the clients will be on Zoom. Sometimes they want to see your face and make sure that you're not a robot.
Yeah, right.
But I'll do voices that I look nothing like.
I'll sound like an older man, for example, and I'll do a commercial where make sure to get all the French fries you want at this Holiday Inn Express. That's right, Holiday Inn Express. We're a train service and we sell French fries. Wait a minute, aren't you a hotel? Holiday Inn Express.
Nice.
And they'll go, what? You don't look anything like your voice. And it freaks clients out sometimes, but
well, that's talent.
I love doing it.
Yeah. So let's talk about, switch gears this for a little bit and talk about the video game world. You've done so many, just a few. You've done Doom, Call of Duty, The Outer Worlds, Overwatch, Mobius Front 83, and World of Warcraft, just to name a handful of them.
Wondering what's going on, eh?
Yes, it's bombing time. Here I come, my little eggs.
For I have transcended the mortal flesh and become one with the flow of information.
I know every inch of this area. Come back with some better stories.
Takes this egg and smash it on Billy's house, okay?
Mount an attack and take down the Dominion.
See those canisters by the entrance? Marauders come sniffing around in here, and I can take them all out with a single shot.
A fire that fuels creation and gives purpose.
Nice.
And Psychonauts 2 just came out, I think. We did that. Gosh, we got some World of Warcraft. I think there's some more Blizzard projects coming on and Call of Duty. Yeah, it's been a very fun, great experience because with video games, it's an extension of the animation mindset where you can play all these characters, but now a lot of video gaming is becoming much more cinematic and grounded and real.
Yeah, it really is. I mean,
so in the beginning, it used to be all cartoony, like Crash Bandicoot or Spyro. Mm-hmm. I did the Spyro game, and it was a great opportunity because you can do cartoony voices, but with the Call of Duty stuff, it's very grounded, very real, and there's emotion, especially in the cinematic parts. Mm-hmm. You got to make sure that you're going to disarm the bomb, because if you don't do it correctly, it's going to blow up in your face.
Mm-hmm. And that could hurt.
They can hurt a lot. So if you talk like this and you say, hey, guys, come on, we want to disarm this bomb. No, you're too cartoony.
Yeah.
So it's great. It's another muscle that I get to stretch, and I'm really privileged to do that. And it's a joy because a lot of the fans will reach out and go like, I had no idea you did the voice of this guy, and now you're the voice of that guy. I'm the main villain in Doom. If you play the game, I'm the at the end of the, I believe it's the third game. I don't know how many versions they've had, but I am the main villain in that one, and there was hints of me through the game, and people were like, I knew it was you from the start. I knew it was you. So it's like this whole world where video games have turned episodic, where you can come back even if the character dies. They can bring the character back, and it's a thrilling thing.
Do you prepare any differently for going into a session for a video game as opposed to other types of VO work? Or?
I make sure that it's like heading to the gym where you're like, okay, is this going to be a short workout or a long workout? You know, like, okay, I've got to, dress accordingly. I'm not going to have my hoodie on or things that make noise. I'm going to make sure I have a lot of water accessible. Or hot tea. I'm going to make sure I have room to move around if I'm doing it in my home studio. But really, it's you have to be ready for anything because the direction can change at any time, and that's the joy of working as an actor. Is you never really should over prepare. You should know the character, and if you know the character, then you can put them in any situation. You know, because sometimes the scene will be a comedic scene, and they'll say, okay, now he's meeting the man who killed his mother. Go.
And you have to be funny.
Oh, okay, I'll try and be funny. This is really hard.
Do you have any idea how many video games you have worked on or done voice work for?
Maybe 24. I don't know. I don't know.
I know it's a lot.
Aren't even, I know IMDb sometimes lists things, but those aren't always
accurate.
They're not accurate. And there's also a lot of games that haven't been released. Some I've worked on 5 years ago that I've forgotten about suddenly get released because they take years to make.
To do the animation.
Took 3 years to make. And it takes a long time. So I've lost track. I like to go in,
do your thing,
perform, and then kind of forget about it. And it's fun to rediscover it and go, oh my gosh, what is that? What did I do?
I forget I did that. Well, let's jump around a little bit, back to TV. What was it like working on Impress Me with Jim Meskimen and Ross? Did you have a good time? I'm assuming it had to be a ball.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, because we were with a large group of talented impressionists, and I was thankful enough to be a part of it, where I became kind of the gentle antagonist on the show, where everything that Jim and Ross tried to go after and achieve in the show as impressionists, if they would turn it down for integrity reasons or something, my character would go and grab it, and then I become more successful. And they're like, damn it, why did we turn that down? And so I end up living like in a mansion, but it gets revealed that I'm kind of like, a loner and just not happy in my place. But it was a great show because it was a way to showcase impressions while being grounded as close to our real selves as possible. So it was a great exercise in just playing ourselves, which we rarely get to do as impressionists, let alone voice actors.
Sure. You spent some time with the Groundlings, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How much, I'm sure it's a great deal, how much working with improvisation like that, how much does that help you in your VO world? I'm sure that's invaluable.
Well, it's definitely invaluable for animation, most especially. You're working on cartoons. They'll say, hey, give us 3 takes. So you read the first take, like, I'm on a train, Granny. Second take, I'm on a train, Granny. Wahoo! Here I am. Look at me. I'm on a train, Granny. Even just that little ad lib of adding some little thing, just being prepared to add something different, or tagging on lines that have been written on the spot. I can't tell you how many characters. I just did a project with Mike Judge where I would just improv on the spot, and he'd go, "That's funny.
Yeah.
Can we put that in the script? Write that down." And they would put it into the show just because it was something that, while the writers were looking down at their script and the engineers were off monitoring the levels and the director was sipping his coffee, I said, okay, I've got half a second here. I'm just going to throw something in there just to entertain myself. Sure. And I think that's the key. You try to play to the room, then you could potentially fall flat on your face. But if you do something that makes you laugh, then you're never going to fail because you're like, well, nobody's laughing, but I'm laughing. And
it's funny. If it makes you laugh, it's funny.
I find it funny, and then it incorporates into the show or something, and it can lead to something else. And a lot of times, improv can lead to a completely new character because it's a great showcase. You don't want to overexert your welcome when you perform in a session with producers because sometimes they just want to go and finish the job. But if you can show that you have range, or you're doing something, you're just playing, having fun with them, then they go, hey, this guy, he's got it. He can do stuff. This is fun. I had no idea you could do Vincent Price. Vincent Price. Darkness falls across the land. The midnight hour is close at hand. And they say, hey, we're actually doing Scooby-Doo. We want Vincent Price over here. Can you do that? Or, whatever. I'm not Scooby-Doo. I'm not Vincent Price on Scooby-Doo. But I'm just saying that.
No, I understand.
Maurice LaMarche does a great Vincent Price, but I could do better. Anyway,
Yeah.
Just doing improv is a great
it's
tool
an
because
asset.
it frees you. It frees you. It gives you a lot more confidence, too.
Do you feel pretty free to do that sort of thing? I imagine you mentioned reading the room. I imagine that there are times when you're like, I know these guys want me to not waste any time and just get right to the script and get this out of the way and get it done and go home. But how often do you feel, I guess it just depends on the situation.
I read the room by literally talking to the people before I go in the booth.
Yeah.
So I usually like to slowly open the door. I don't like to announce it. I always feel awkward when they're like, the talent is here. The talent is here. Hi, everybody. The talent is here. This is Piotr Michael. Am I saying your name right? He's going to be doing the voice of Subi-Dabba-Doo-Boo. And Subi-Dabba-Doo-Boo is a great character. He's going to, oh my God, he did a fantastic audition. I hate that. What I like is where I open the door, sneak in and see what's going on. I go, okay.
Like a fly on the wall.
Get a temperature.
They're joking. Okay. And I can come in and I'll open up and be silly or be cool and calm and collected. And, sometimes it's a stronger response when you don't say anything and you just get up to the microphone
there and wait for them to
blow
notice.
their minds because they go, we don't know who this guy is. He seems like
who is that man?
Seems like a schmuck. We don't know. Then you get behind the microphone and, blow them away and they freak out. But I like to joke usually during mic tests or mic check. Like, hey, can we check your levels? I'll do some silly voices.
Yeah.
Or after the session is healthy because you're done.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, now we don't have to stress. And you're like, oh, thank you for that. I'm going to do some silly voices. And they go, hey, Steve, don't we have, we got that big brute. Yeah, we have a guy in the show. We've been trying to find a voice. That voice you just did, can we use that voice? Let's use that voice. Hey, give him the script. Bring that in there. So you have to be a human being and read the room like any healthy conversation. You don't want to overstay your welcome and be a schmo. But, some actors love to do it. They love to just go out and sing and dance. It's just their personality. But for me, I like to read the room and go in a little slow.
I think that's the smarter way to play it.
Yeah.
Well, for people that might want to book you, what's the best way to reach out to you? You have an agent?
You just go to my website. Yeah, so I've got an agent at CESD. I've got a voice manager at Cope Management, VoiceOver Express. No, you can just go to my website, PIOTRMichael.com, and that has all my social media handles, all that wonderful stuff that people like to salivate over. I've got more demos and things like that, and you can reach out to me personally or connect to all my reps right on there.
Very cool. Your IMDb, as Wes said earlier, is extensive. We can't possibly get to everything. For young actors that might be interested in pursuing a career, what would you suggest?
Don't do it.
Don't do it, you fools.
Keep your head down. Invest in big tech, robots,
Bitcoin.
AI, Bitcoin, and nothing else, because your voice will be replaced by robots very soon, which is a real fear of
I think we got about
actors.
5-10 years, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it's happening quicker than we think, but for the smaller jobs, a lot of the non-union guys that are
e-learning stuff like that, they're going to be in trouble.
Have great incomes online. Even audiobooks can disappear because if you record, Patrick Swayze's ex-girlfriend doing her tell-all book, I don't know, and she happens to lose her voice, then they say, well, we've got this audiobook recording of her. We can continue on and finish off those chapters.
Yeah.
Anything's possible with that. But no, for young actors, I would say, learn and educate yourself on acting, not doing silly voices. Silly voices, if you have that skill, keep it, use it, perfect it. It's just about doing it more and more and more and more and more. Listen to the original. If you're mimicking somebody, listen to the original, repeat, record yourself, then compare and just keep doing that. But with acting, learn, go to theater, go to plays, take lessons, take improv, do things you don't want to do, not because it's, bad for you, but just things that you may not be interested in, because you'll be surprised. You're like, wow, I didn't know that taking this singing class could open up my vocal cords differently, or even taking a Mamba dance class is giving me more confidence with my physicality. Now I'm more confident in the room because I can salsa. No, so try everything, educate yourself, and, definitely don't send out your demos when you're not ready. A lot of young guys, I get emails all the time saying, hey, listen to my demo. What? Who can you send this to Disney? And I go, I'm sorry, buddy, but, you got to work on this.
Yeah.
Just do more of this. Do more. And don't send your demos out early, because casting directors will remember you for being bad. Get healthy, constructive opinions from people before sending it out. But some people are fantastic straight out of the gate, so you never know. I would just say, take it slow, take it easy. There's no rush. Just go and educate yourself before jumping into the moving stream of voiceover.
Get good at your craft.
That's really good advice.
Become a good actor, and you'll do well.
Very good advice.
But if you're already an old man and you've wasted all of your life, use your life experiences and do less when you perform on the microphone.
And remember,
because if you speak less and you do less, then you sound more interesting. Simply because, well, people are waiting for the next word you're about to say.
Let the listener fill in the blank. Right.
That commercial was supposed to be 30 seconds. It turned into half an hour.
Well, you've been super cool with your time, and we really do appreciate it. Is there anything that you want to plug, or any social media stuff you want to talk about, or anything you can we talked about your website a little bit. And
if you're listening to the Howard Stern Show, you can try and figure out who I do. I do a lot of characters on there, I'm doing Joe Biden a lot for a lot of the late night shows, Jimmy Kimmel.
Now, when you do Biden, I have to ask, do you ever get any pushback?
Negative.
Yeah, in a negative way. It's like
I'll usually get people who don't like him, but they'll try and have me record nasty things as Joe Biden, and I'll be like, I'm not really into. But no, it's usually I'm very supportive of people.
Folks, here's the deal: America's very divided. Got a lot of tension going on. I believe that pretzels are the saltiest snack. I believe that. That's why we need to put sugar on our pretzels. But hold on a second. Salty, sweet and salty. How about sweet and sour pretzels? I love it. Let's do it.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
Awesome. All right, Piet, you've been great. Before we let you go, can you give us a close as Doc Brown? You can just say something like, hey, thanks, Rick and Wes, for having me on Talking Voiceovers, and then do whatever you want to do as the Doc.
Great Scott! Wes, Rick, thanks for having me on Talking Voiceovers. Now, hold on, let me do it again.
Take two.
Great Scott! Wes, Rick, thank you for having me.
Talking Voiceovers? That's the name of the show?
Yep, Talking Voiceovers.
Look at this. I can't even do this.
We'll cut this out and make sure you get it one take.
No, you please put it in. I love for people to see the raw, real reality of voiceover.
Great Scott! Wes, Rick, thanks for having me on Talking Voiceovers. Now, I want you folks to stay tuned to this pair of incredible geniuses. Don't leave them. Stay tuned for the next exciting episode in the near future.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Man, thank you so much.
All right, man. We'll let you go so you can get back to your day.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Best of luck to you,
man. Awesome.
Best of luck to you.
We'll
and
talk to you later.
Be safe.
Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, Doc Brown. I can't believe he took us out. Piot was great. What a terrific interview. Just a great guy, very humble and very, very talented.
Yeah, I knew he had done a lot in the industry, but I had no idea the extent of it. I mean, he's just done so many things from video games, TV, you name it. I mean, he's done it all.
Super talent. All right, well, thank you so much. And, hey, join us next time for Season 3, Episode number 7 of Talkin' Voiceovers. We love to bring you guys the very best guests in the world of voiceover, so be sure and hit like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on the show.
Thank you guys so much.
See ya.
I'm Samantha Fagan, and you're listening to Talkin' Voiceovers. Be sure and subscribe to Talkin' Voiceovers. Hit like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Before you book your next voiceover demo, check out primodemos.com. You'll hear the difference.
Thanks for listening to Talkin' Voiceovers with Rick Sellers and Wes McCraw. Find us on Facebook or on the web at primodemos.com.